Welcome to the latest episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast. This is episode 155, Navigating the Bread and Bakery Section and Making Healthier Choices. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast with me, Shelley Rael. I'm the founder of Real World Nutrition. And as I said, this is episode 155, which is continuing the series on navigating the grocery store. Now, so far, in the last several episodes, I've addressed the produce aisle, the snack aisle, the dairy aisle, and today, as I've mentioned, we're headed into a section of the grocery store that can be particularly challenging for a lot of people, and that's the bread and bakery aisle. Now, I don't know about you, I love the smell of freshly baked bread. I think most people do, but people tend to have various ideas and attitudes toward bread. Now, with so many options on the shelves, we've got white bread, and we've got whole wheat, and we've got multigrain, and we've got gluten-free, and we've got all these labels screaming out at us in the bread aisle. It is hard to know what is best. Then there's also the pastries and the muffins and the baked treats that can be tempting. Now, in some stores, you've got the prepackaged that are in this aisle. You also have the actual bakery section in the grocery store. So I am combining this into one episode today. So just know that you can be talking fresh bread in the bakery section, but we can also be talking about the packaged bread in some inner aisles of the grocery store. So I'll break down how to make smarter choices in the bread section and the bakery section, reading through some of the label noise, that's what I say, the front of the package claims, and then help you determine which products align with your health and wellness goals. Now, by the end of this episode, hopefully you'll know how to pick the healthiest options for your lifestyle, whether that's looking for high fiber breads, low sugar options, or just something that is delicious without sacrificing the nutrition. Now, first up, the different types of breads. The one that's most familiar to us, white bread. And it's made from refined flour, and refining the flour, refining the wheat, tends to strip away most of the fiber, vitamins, and minerals. And it's soft and light and nutritionally, even with a lot of those vitamins and minerals added back in, it's not the healthiest option in a lot of cases. Now and then there is just some things that have to be made with white bread. The classic fluffer nutter that I had growing up on those special occasions, that is just a white bread sandwich all the way. Now there's whole wheat bread as well, and this is a much better option if it's made, as long as it's made from whole grains. So whole wheat would contain the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, and this provides fiber, vitamins, and minerals. And whole wheat is a good go-to for those looking for something that is healthier, yet still familiar in taste. Now I want to clarify, when people say wheat bread, most breads, white or whole wheat, are made with wheat. So just saying wheat bread doesn't really clarify or determine that it's whole wheat bread. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I hear people saying wheat bread a lot, and white bread is made with wheat as well. Then there's multigrain bread, and this sounds healthy, but just because bread is labeled multigrain doesn't mean it's made with whole grains or is a whole grain. So I've seen 7 grain, I've seen 12 grain. There's so many different labels out there, but sometimes this one is still made with refined flour and then has added seeds or added grains to it to have it be that multi-grain or 7 or 12 grain classification. So I always say check the label to make sure whole grain, that would be whole wheat or a whole whatever the grain is that first ingredient on that label. And then we have sprouted grain bread. And this is one that a lot of people who are nutrition conscious go for. And sprouted grains may offer more nutrients because the grain is sprouted before it's milled into a flour. And for some people, this can be easier to digest and might provide more vitamins and minerals than other breads, but it's still not going to be the one that is the always go-to bread necessarily. And then there's gluten-free bread. And this one, of course, is important for people with celiac disease or has a gluten sensitivity. But really, if you don't have a gluten issue, you don't really need to opt for a bread that is gluten-free. Especially, this is important, a lot of people don't realize this. These breads can often be lower in fiber and higher in starch, which means it can also affect your blood glucose levels. It may be higher in calories and is not nutritionally superior. So a lot of people have this idea that if something is gluten-free, it is healthier. And it is certainly healthier for people who have celiac disease, but it is not automatically healthier. So you need to look at the labels. So this brings me to this section, how to read those labels. And this is where things can get tricky. So this is where I help you cut through the noise of those marketing claims. So whole grain versus whole wheat. So front of the package, look for 100% whole grain or 100% whole wheat. If it just says wheat or if it just says multigrain, there's a good chance you're still getting a product that's made with refined flour. So that first ingredient should be whole grain or whole wheat. Now, keeping in mind, some of these claims is really based on your health goals. So a lot of people will buy whole grain because they like it, which is fine. But I don't want people to buy whole grain thinking that they're getting a whole wheat or 100% whole grain product. So there's some nuance there, but don't make those assumptions. Double check and make sure it says that 100% whole grain or 100% whole wheat if that is part of your nutrition goals. Fiber content. This is where you want to look at the nutrition facts panel. So pick it up and turn it over and aim for breads that have at least 3 grams of fiber per slice or per serving here. So this helps ensure that you're getting a product that really is helpful with digestion, helping you keep full longer, and just so many people need to get more fiber, so may as well get some bang for your buck out of this. Now, added sugars. You want to be careful with breads that contain a lot of added sugars, which can be listed as straight up sugar. It could be corn syrup, it could be cane sugar, it could be molasses. And I want to emphasize a little bit of sugar is important to have in bread that contains yeast. Even when I made my pizza dough last night, I needed to add a teaspoon of sugar to the whole thing because that yeast needed to grow. So going for a no sugar, it's not necessarily going to be the goal, but low sugar. So ideally, your bread should have less than 2 grams of sugar per slice. And then there's serving sizes. Pay attention to serving sizes. So some bread slices are bigger than others. So if you're looking at 1 slice or 2, see what the serving size says on that nutrition facts panel. So I often joke about square bread versus rectangle bread. And the serving size as listed on the label is going to be that 1 slice. But some of the larger slices may be 1.5 ounces of bread as opposed to 1 ounce. Or I should say a grain, 1.5 ounces of a grain serving versus 1 ounce. And then take a look at the sodium. Bread can be surprisingly high in sodium, especially if you're eating it regularly. So again, when I was making my pizza dough last night, I added some salt. Again, it was just a teaspoon. So it wasn't a whole lot, and acknowledging this was indeed pizza that I was making. But look for options or your bread options that have less than 200 milligrams per slice. If it's lower than that, great. But I just want to acknowledge that having a no salt bread is got a very different flavor. So if you're not used to it, it might be a little bit startling when you have it the first time. All right, now let's just swing over to the bakery stuff, the bakery options. So muffins and pastries and all that goodness. So again, bread is just one part of this bakery section. So some of those baked goods can be so tempting. Like I said, muffins, croissants, pastries, bagels, donuts, all kinds of fabulous things. So muffins. Muffins I've found have really gone down in popularity, at least among the population that I work with. But people tend to see them as healthier because they contain fruit or bran. So think of a banana nut muffin or a bran muffin or a blueberry muffin. And I jokingly say this is just a cupcake dressed up as a breakfast food. I mean, it may not have the frosting on it. I love my banana nut muffins. But keep in mind, this is often something that is loaded with sugar and loaded with fat. So, if you're buying the store bought kind, I try to encourage people to limit these, or you can make them at home where you control the ingredients. And when I say back in the old days, you've got the mini muffins that are like golf ball size, and you've got the medium muffins that are like baseball size, and then there were some muffins that were like softball size. And you could still get these at Costco and probably other places too. I'm a huge Costco person, that's no secret. Um, and those may be one, two, or I should say two servings. So take a look at the serving size on these. I used to refer to some a specifically branded muffin, and what most people assumed was one serving was usually two servings in the packaging. And then bagels. I love bagels. And these are delicious, but they are typically dense and can be high in calories. So I don't want to malign bagels. There are a lot of people, I mean, bagels are very popular and then they pretty much disappeared, at least again in the population that I work with, because people thought of them as bad. Really, it's just consider the portion, maybe smaller bagels, choosing whole grain varieties, being conscious of them being pretty very much dense, but we want to have toppings or things to go with it that helps balance that. So where I used to work, there was a bagel store across the street, and I would love going over there and getting one that had peanut butter on it or one that was a cheese bagel that I could have with my soup. So these aren't awful. They're not. But some of those bagels were starting to get out of hand with this portion sizing again. And then, boy, what I consider the best part of the bakery aisle or bakery section, pastries. Donuts, croissants, danishes. Really, a lot of these tend to be high in fats. And be careful, some of these can be trans fats still, or those partially hydrogenated oils, and added sugars. So keep in mind this should be an occasional treat rather than an everyday staple. This is one of those things where when I'm at Costco, I look and I'm like, boy, it would be so much cheaper for me to buy that container of croissants to make sandwiches. But in this house, that would not be a good idea because those things are, the size of, oh, I'd say the size of a boomerang in a lot of cases. But really, it's just be just be cautious of the portion size is my big thing there. If you want to avoid these, eliminate these from your diet altogether, fine. But on occasion, I just like to have a donut or a sweet treat in this pastry section, and I'm not going to deprive myself, and I don't want people to feel they need to deprive themselves either. With that, how can we incorporate bread into a healthy diet without overdoing it? So, big thing, as I've mentioned already, portion size. Stick to 1 or 2 slices of bread per meal. When I say that, I'm referring to if you're having a sandwich, you're usually going to have 2 slices. Use whole grain bread. Load up on the veggies, the protein, and healthy fats like avocado or even peanut butter. I'm not one that will turn away bread at a restaurant, but if I have that whole loaf of fresh baked bread at home, that is really dangerous in my house. If I'm making bread at home, by chance, it's like, oh gosh, within a couple days, it's gone just because it is so good. So the portion control is the big aspect here. Make it part of a balanced meal. So pair bread with high fiber foods and protein, again, eggs, lean meats. As I said, nut butter to make a more balanced meal. So not just the portion sizes, but part of a meal. Not bread isn't the meal, but is part of a meal. And then I know this part isn't for everyone, but I'm going to say it anyway, homemade options. So if you loved baked goods, try out making your own bread or muffins at home. I know 4 years ago when we were in the throes of the pandemic, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody because I wasn't one of those, was making all kinds of sourdough bread and sourdough things and all kinds of things. It's something where on occasion I'll make things. I did mention that I make my own pizza dough, but really, when you're making things at home, you can use whole grain options, but more importantly, control how much sugar is in there or adding healthier ingredients, including seeds, nuts, flax seeds. So truly, bread can be part of a delicious and nutritious diet. You can include bread. I hear so often where people say, I cut out bread, which, that's fine if you want, but what a tragedy in my opinion. Really, look for whole grains. Look for minimal added sugars. Look for fiber-rich options more often. I love a good French or Italian bread. I know there's differences there. I love it. And really, that's reserved when I go out to eat and at home, looking for those fiber-rich options and the whole grains especially. Okay, so that was that with regard to the bread and bakery aisle. So if you have questions or thoughts about this, I'd love to hear from you. Use the link in the show notes to reach out to me. And really, that is it for today's episode of the Real World Nutrition Podcast. I hope you have some tools for when you're there in the bread and bakery section next time you're at the grocery store. And really, it's not about deprivation. It's about living in the real world, navigating, eating, and living healthier in the real world, and how that affects our health on a day-to-day basis, but long-term as well, and how it is sustainable. All right, so stay tuned for another section of the grocery store in next week's episode. And if you want to get that episode automatically download, go ahead and click the follow button so you get it when it comes out next week. All right, everyone, take care and bye for now.